Hi YouTube, it's Janelle here, and I'm really excited to share this video collab that I got a chance to sit down and do with my girl Amanda Savinon. She is an artist and photographer based out of right here in New York City, just like me, but she's also a really awesome blogger. So her website is loyalnana.com. And so we got a chance to just sit and talk about a topic that is really important to me, and I feel like we don't talk about these types of conversations enough because sometimes they're just tough to have. And so I really like the fact that we sat down to have this conversation. And I think it's going to help her audience, and it also hopefully will help some of mine. So basically, we sat down and discussed that a lot of times when you grew up low income or come from a low income background, and then you finally do come into money for the first time, whether it's through a career, a job, or whether it's through gigs. Some folks are out here making 5 figures per gig or 6 figures per gig, and when you never really had access to that type of money, it can be really tricky to make decisions and to navigate your finances when you didn't have a lot of financial education around when you were growing up. So in this video, we talk about 4 do's and 4 don'ts for those who are formerly low income and now coming into that real money. So go ahead and check it out and make sure to support my girl Amanda at loyalnana.com.
So first things first, I think a huge thing that people forget to do is pay yourself first. In the world of personal finance, it's called PYF, pay yourself first. But really what that means is that before you even think about rent that needs to be paid or groceries that need to be bought or kids' school supplies you need to buy, like nothing that is a need is as necessary as you, and you have to come first. So that means a savings account at the very least, but hopefully somewhere where you're investing money for yourself. So that means that the first thing you do when you get your check is take however much money, 10%, 15, 20%, whatever you're comfortable with that you can afford, and put it away for you. That money's not going to get touched. It's not going to be used to buy anything. It is literally there as a cushion, as a protection for whatever comes your way later in life that you're not prepared for. You are prepared for because you've been putting money aside for it, even though you don't necessarily know what that might be. Because what we were saying earlier is that a lot of times people who end up in a situation, they didn't expect it. They're like, how could it be me? How could I end up in this situation? You never think it's going to be you until it ends up being you. And so it's better to always be putting money aside for yourself first. And a lot of times people, what they do is they make sure they're trying to be responsible. And that's not a bad thing. So they pay their rent first. They pay their bills first. They get groceries. They cover everything that is needed. Then when you come to look at it, there's no money left. It's because you were doing everything that you thought you needed. But really, if you do put money aside for yourself first, whatever's left, you'll then be more strategic. And you'll be like making sure that you're not going to run out and using it for what's needed. So that's called pay yourself first. I think we have to start there.
It's kind of like paying yourself for like staying alive, I guess, and for getting through life, you know, for like sleeping when you need to and eating when you need to. So
exactly, you have to, because a lot of times what people do is they'll think, I'm paying my rent and buying food. Those are ways that I'm paying myself. It's like, no, the person who makes money when you pay your rent is your landlord. The person that makes money when you pay your cell phone bill is Verizon. You're not keeping your money yourself. You're giving it away. So you have to think, who makes the money when I invest it in an account for myself? Me. That's really truly paying yourself. So definitely a quick way to do this is to create a savings account. And I do not recommend going to a big bank like Bank of America, Chase Bank, Citibank, TD Bank, all these Wells Fargo. You do not want to have your savings account at those big banks because they're not going to give you that much return on your investment. They're not going to give you that much profit basically off of your money. So with like I used to have a Bank of America savings account before I switched over because I learned all this stuff. My Bank of America savings account was giving me 0.01% interest. That means every $100 that I saved at the end of the year, I get a penny back. So now my account goes up 100 at 0.01. And I have to keep saving 100 every year to make another penny. It's going to take me forever to grow my money like that. So I decided, all right, I got to not cut that crap out. I need to go to an account that's going to give me something. And so if you do a little research, you're going to see right now, 2018, 2019, the highest you're going to get is about 2%, 2.05%, you know, around 2%. And those are not big banks. Those are online savings accounts only. So accounts like Ally Bank, Synchrony Bank, accounts like Marcus by Goldman Sachs, these are online only, which makes it harder for you to take out the money. And that's the point, to build it up. If you don't have a checking account with a debit card, first handle that. Go to a big bank and do that, sure. But we're talking about savings. So you want to make it hard for you to not touch that money.
So my first instinct going into the second do is the first thing I want to do is like, I'm making all this money. I have student debt. Like I have 3 credit cards. I have all these things. Like I just want to pay my debt, you know, like I owe my auntie $100. You know, like I'm going to pay all my debt first to get that all out the way. And then I could be like, oh, well, what can I do with all this amazing money? Yeah. Is that right? Like, is it good to like pay all your debt first?
Instinct. Like, it's a good instinct to have, because if you have a lot of debt and you're just trying to save money, at the end of the day, if you're not paying off that debt, you're not saving money because your debt is growing. And so you're in the negative to somebody. So yes, you want to have that instinct. But when it comes to actually doing it, executing on this, it's all about the numbers. It's a math game. It's about what are the interest rates, because the interest rate is basically going to tell you how much it's going to grow, how fast it's going to grow. So I like to tell people who like hate percents and math and all that, percent is like the word cent. It comes from century, or like it's the same root. Century means 100 years. Percent means per every 100. So that means if you invest $100 at a 7% interest rate, you're going to get $107 back. That's really hard to find, a 7% interest rate return on your investment without being risky. So that's how you got to think about it. If I have a credit card and they charge me 21% interest, every $100 I spend on that credit card, if I don't pay it back on time, they're going to charge me an extra $21 at the end of the year for that $100. You can see how quickly that adds up, and people end up being like trying to get their head above water, but it's like it adds up fast. Mm-hmm. So it's all about the interest rate. Sit down and say, all right, I owe my aunt $100. That's growing at a 0% interest rate, hopefully, because your auntie hopefully loves you enough to not charge you interest. But let's be real, there's some family members out here who got a little side hustle.
Gotta hit you with the 150 just for taking my time with it. I'm sorry.
So hopefully that's not true. We're gonna assume it's a 0%. And then if you have a credit card, it's somewhere in the 15, 16, 17, up to 20%, somewhere in the double digits, because credit cards are the highest interest rate debt usually. If you have a car loan, usually maybe about 7, 9%, 8%, depending on your credit. If you have student loan debt, if it's a private student loan debt, it's usually still single digits, like 8 or 9%. But if it's a federal student loans from the government, it's usually like 3%, 4, 5%. So that's really low. There's no way you should be paying off your student loan debt first before a credit card, because credit cards are growing 15, 16, 20%, and your student loans 4 or 5%. That's much small. That's much less interest. So you shouldn't really be worrying about that as much as your credit cards.
Is that why people call student debt like healthy debt?
So people say it's good debt. No debt is good.
I was going to say that. It's like tobacco, you guys. No cigarette is safer.
Thank you. Let's be real. Calling it good debt is just a way of helping people remember that some types of debt are a little bit lighter to worry about, which means if the interest is really low, worry about high interest rate debt first. So that means even if you only owe $100 on your credit card, and you owe $5,000 on a student loan, you should still tackle the credit card first, even if it's not that much, because the credit card has a higher interest rate. Other way around, if you only owe $100 in student loans and you owe $5,000 on a credit card, you might be tempted to just say, oh, let me just pay this $100 and get this student loan out of the way. It's better for you to put $100 towards a credit card and leave the $100 on student loan just because of the interest rate. So at the end of the day, how you use your dollars should be basically determined and decided by the interest rates, and how the higher ones that you owe should be more priority for you to smash those, get them out the way faster, because they're killing you with those double-digit interest rates.
And this comes with a lot of research, because these are a lot of like invisible numbers. Yes. I see them as like invisible things that are coming out of your wallet that you don't even know about.
The fine print be like font 4, like font 3. Why you can't read that? You need a microscope. Why? Because they want it to be hard for you to really make a plan, because the longer you take to pay them, the more money they make off of you. So it's really hard to get that. Sometimes it's easier to just get on the phone and call them and be like, what is the interest rate on this account? Because that way you get it, you hear it from somebody, you write it down, and you don't have to like get frustrated trying to.
That's how you do your research. Don't go online. Don't try to go on barclaysbanking.com or Chase. Just call them and be like, what's my interest rate on this card? What perks am I getting? And if you don't like what you're hearing, as you have told me before, just be like, okay, great. There's other banks that I'm aware of that aren't going to charge me for this. I'm just going to go there if you can close my account. And then they're going to start giving you everything.
Oh yeah, they'll start offering you all the perks. Oh wait, hold on, don't close your account. We could offer you this or that. And a lot of times it might be worth it to stay, but sometimes if it's really not, like if you're getting charged crazy fees, it might be worth it to just close the account, because credit cards, especially with high annual fees, that's how people get caught. You might not even be using the card, and all of a sudden January comes around and they charge you $150. You're like, what? I don't even swipe the card. But that's the annual fee. That's the fee you have to use just to have the card open in your name. There's tons of credit cards out there that don't have no fees. So why would you pay for them to have an account for you when you can have an account with someone else?
The only reason we would pay for them instead of doing the free account is because we don't know. We don't have the information. We are unaware, which is why we're here.
Right.
And also, if you're just like, whew, okay, My debit's not that. I just want to pay it all off at once. That's good.
Yeah,
okay.
It's okay depending on. We were saying this before about how it depends on what you're paying off. Because if you have a credit card that has $5,000 on it and you have the $5,000, you should definitely pay it all off in one shot because your credit score is going to improve like that. Like you're going to see like 100 extra points come in because one of the pieces of the pie when it comes to your credit score is how much you owe. The more you owe, the worse your score is. The less you owe, the better your score is. So if you pay that all off in one shot, you're going to see that you owe less and your credit score is going to jump up and it's going to improve. So definitely if it comes to credit cards and you have the money, pay it off. Don't be sending monthly payments to them. They're just making profit off you. Okay, so the third thing that you want to make sure you do is you want to support your people. There's definitely going to be your moms, your uncle, your cousins, your little brothers and sisters who are going to need support from you, especially if you're the one, that made it out or whatever they say. You made it out the hood or you made good money. You're the one that's the example for everyone else. And so then you're going to feel like responsible to help your family. What you want to do is, yes, you can give, you can help, but you have to include that in a plan. You can't just, whenever somebody texts you, yo, let me hold $200, I'll give it back to you next Friday. You can't just be like, yes, 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 all the time. Because you're going to see that you're going to start to resent your family. You're going to start to resent your loved ones because you're going to feel like, damn, they only hit me up when they need money, or they think I'm a bank giving them money for free. Like, money don't grow on trees.
Maybe because you are giving them money every time they ask for
it. Exactly. And so it's like you have to start thinking, okay, how can I control this? How can I do it in a way that actually helps me and them? It's not just a one-way street, money coming out, money coming out. It helps me because when it's statistically speaking, data shows that you feel better and you're more happy and joyful when you give. So it is a good thing to give. What we would say is do it by including it in your plan. I like to put a little bit of money aside every month into my savings account. And I just know, like in my head, I'm like, every month I'm putting $20 aside. And by the time 5-6 months pass, I have $120 extra. Now, if somebody hits me up, oh, can you let me hold $40? It comes out of that. It's not going to come out of my money that I've been saving for fun or that I wanted to invest or that I wanted to use to buy new AirPods. I'm not going to take my pleasures and give it to them. I'm going to take it from the little stash that I've been putting aside purposefully for helping my family out when they need it.
And whatever for me personally, that's going to help mentally because I wrap my head around a lot. Like, what if I'm too greedy? Or like, what if, they think this? Or what if they expect more from me? Or what if... So I feel like if I had this fund that I set aside for giving and someone hit me up like, yo, you got, my sister, my mom, like, oh, you got $50 or, take it from there, just $60. I'd be like, why, yes, I do have $60.
And it feels good.
Yeah, and you just skip the whole thing. You skip the whole, okay, you don't think, or you think
that. Or what do you need it for? It's like, honestly, I don't even care. Now when my family asks me to let them hold money, I'm not going to be asking questions. If I give, it's because I know I'm giving it because I can afford to give it.
It's the only way to give.
Yeah. So
don't ask no questions.
Give it as a gift. Don't ask questions. And if it comes back, great. If it doesn't matter because you have been putting that money there to give. It's a giving fund, like a little family giving fund or whatever you want to call it. So for me, it works really well. It doesn't stress me out anymore. Like it used to stress me out. Like I used to be like, oh my God, like people think.
And what about Christmas?
And Christmas, same thing.
Yeah, like, if you don't have $3,000 in there to spend on all these gifts, $3,000 worth, then don't,
Just don't do it.
Yeah.
To me, it's like I've been purposely putting money aside little by little. It doesn't hurt that way. Little by little it adds up though. And when you need it for something, Christmas, for your family, for whatever, it's there. So people like to wait till the last minute, and money is the one thing you do not want to procrastinate with. You can procrastinate on your papers and your projects or whatever you got to do for work, but when it comes to your money, do not procrastinate with your money.
Yeah, and the best way to do that is that December's coming again. And it takes about 12 months to get there in each of these months.
It's not a surprise when December comes every year.
Exactly. So this is the way that I'm trying to get better prepared with money, is having faith and believing that there's a structure here and that time is coming and that there's going to be another Christmas and yet another year, and that can help me better prepare for a giving fund, Help your family. Nothing wrong with that, especially if they are active in your life and, they cook for you and shit. I don't know.
Yeah, that can help you out.
We love the word budgeting so much.
Everybody loves to say they're on a budget. Oh yeah, I have a budget. Right. On Friday night, nobody wants to be in the house budgeting. It's not. It's just like, come on, people don't like it. And honestly, the word budget has such a bad reputation now that people hate it so much because it's just been overused so much. Like everyone needs a budget. You need to be on a budget, on the company budget. This is not in our budget. And it's like to this point where people just feel like negative emotions when it comes to the word budget. It's like, oh, it's restricting. It's like, oh, why do I have to do that? I just don't want to do it. It's a lot of work and it's not fun. But what I was telling Amanda earlier was that I recently changed how I budget. But so I think there's two things that are really important to consider before you figure out how you want to budget. If you're the type of person who is a hot ass mess, and this is no judgment here, because that literally was me. I knew I was a hot mess. And if you're a hot mess, chances are you know you're a hot mess. Usually you're not a hot mess walking around thinking you're hot shit. Like, you usually know you're a hot mess. Yeah. And so if your numbers never add up and you don't have money at the end of the month, or you never can figure it quite right, that means that you're kind of a mess. And so what you need to do is actually be really strict. The only way you're going to be able to train, it's like a dog that's not house trained. Every time you bring your friends over, the dog's biting people, running around, acting crazy. You can't be loose with that dog and be like, I know, puppy, come here. Like, that dog needs training. Like, you need to train that dog so that it can sit still when people come over, doesn't attack people and get you in trouble. That's how you need to treat yourself. Like, you're a wild little dog who needs training. Get on a strict budget. Get on a strict plan. But the nice thing about doing that is that once you do that for enough time, you become a well-behaved puppy. Yeah. You become the kind of person who, like, you are right. When it comes to spending, you're not tempted to spend your money like crazy how you used to, because now you have some training. Now you have some structure. Your budget teaches you how to act with your money. Now people want to come and pet you and be like, oh, so you're beautiful. Right. And you're like, you're like, I'm laughing now. Thanks. I'm good now. Where's mom? But the thing is that it's so true. The analogy is perfect, because once you get to that place where you feel like you don't need anyone and you don't need to depend on anything or anybody, because internally you have like a little compass that tells you like, I'm always going to do what's right for me with my money. And so it takes a while to get there. Like, don't get it twisted. It's not like overnight success. You do a budget one day and the next day you're, like the clouds are partying, sun is coming through and you're a budget queen. Like, no, it takes time and it's hard. And sometimes you're going to not stick to it and then you're going to come back, and it's like a diet. Like, it's a lifestyle. And what turns us off about budgeting, I don't think is just the limit. It's just more of the work around it. Like, so I can only do this much shopping this month, this much eating out, this much, for bills, and then this much for travel and the entertainment. And that's the hard. Like, and it's true, because the thing is that, to me, that's when it gets really complicated. But again, if you need that structure because you're a hot mess dog, then you need to do it. You're right. But once you do that for a little while, all those categories that people come to hate, like, oh, he has so many categories, so many this and that, you eventually you can do away with that. So the way that I've been budgeting recently is I can trust myself with my money. I know that I've budgeted hard for like years now. So what I do is I take off the top everything that is really important that I need. Needs do not mean just rent, food, and bills. That's what most people say is what their needs are. Roof over my head, food to eat, and my bills are paid, so my electric don't get cut off. Right, but there's other things that you need too. Before that. Before rent. And that's what, it kind of goes back to pay yourself first. So for me, what I do is my investment is the first thing that I do. I am so like hyper obsessed with making sure that I'm never going to be poor again. Like, I'm not going to be like, I'm not going to be out here begging for people to let me stay in their crib, or out here like struggling to get food, or I don't want to live like that again. Like, I was broke in college, I was poor growing up, and I already know that there's a better way to live. So I'm going to make sure I'm always planning for that life that's a little better. This is the true definition of securing your bag. Exactly. Don't be fooled out there by what you think or people say is securing your bag. Like, securing your bag is making sure that you won't be poor again, so that you can live how you want to live. And you know how you use your money, which is why you know you want some and you want a lot of it, so that you can use it how you want. And there's another thing that goes with this, is that people think that money makes you bad, or that money is a bad thing. And it's like, especially when you grow up poor, a lot of times you have these associations with rich people that you start to hate them. You start to hate money. You know, it's like, once you wrap your head around the fact that the more money you have, the more good you can do, the more people you can help, the more you can give without it hurting you, you realize that you got to flip that idea on its head. Money doesn't make people bad. Bad people use money to do bad things. Good people use money to do good things. And if you want to do more good, more money is only going to help you do more good. So I realized recently, like, I have to do away with those thoughts about money being bad and rich people being bad. That's not true. It's just, what am I going to do with the money when I get it? And the first thing I do is invest. So I have my Roth IRA. I just posted on Instagram today that I use Betterment, which is a robo-advising platform, and they invest for me. I'm very passive. I just put the money and I forget about it. And they invest it for me. They do the dividends. They reinvest all the stock market stuff that confuses people. I actually don't worry too much about it.
What's like the minimum that you can put in, that you can
$0.
invest?
You can start the account with no money. You can put 25 cents, 10 cents, $1. That's why I chose Betterment, because a lot of the other platforms out there have like $500 minimum, or like, and that immediately puts a wall up, especially people from the hood. I'm sorry, $500 minimum. Like, where is that a minimum? That's a lot. That's a maximum amount. That's a lot of money. Like, I'm trying to reach that. So a lot of times that's, you know, where people are coming from. So when you see a minimum balance, 1,500, it makes you like off-putting. It's like off-putting. So I chose Betterment because I like that. And I started with like $50. Then it got $200. Then once I started making more money, I was like, all right, now I'm going to OD as much as I can.
And that's how you pay yourself, by investing into things that are going to get you more money later.
Exactly. And for me, I choose the stock market. A lot of people can choose different things, but I've done my research and I know like 20 years, 30 years down the line, the stock market is going to give the average American the best return on their investment, better than real estate, better than banks, better than your saving it in your house. God, please do not do that, because cash is losing value. So better than really anything. So for me, I'm like, all right, my Roth IRA, which is the account that I chose, it has a limit. Every year you can only put a certain amount, because otherwise people will be putting everything in there so it could grow, right? So they have to cap it. I made sure the first thing I did when I got paid, automatic transfer, $458.33 goes directly into my Roth IRA with Betterment. And then everything else happens. So then I look aside, okay, I got to pay my rent, got to pay my bill. But I make sure that gets invested. And I have a savings account.
Do you do that every month or every check?
Every month. Every month. But you can do it every check by dividing 458 divided by 2, like 220 something every check. If you want to max out your Roth IRA, if you can afford to. I definitely think people should if they can afford to. First priority is max out that Roth IRA and then pay everything that needs to pay. Have a savings account with at least $1,000 in it in case of emergency. That's that PYF, pay yourself first. And when you hit that 1,000, everything else goes to investment. So once I do those things, then my rent gets paid, my groceries and all that stuff. And again, if this sounds like a lot of money to you, if you're where I was a few years ago, where $458 a month is way too much money, that's fine. Do 55 a month. Do 22 a month. Do 17 a month. Start with a number and stick to it every month, because that behavior that you're building of consistently putting money aside to an investment account for yourself is what matters. The numbers don't matter as much. As you get older, you'll start to increase it. But right now, just commit to something and stick to it.
And if at the end of the day, all of this still feels very foreign and it feels impossible, and you're like, real estate investment, REITs, or what? Like, just start by asking yourself, what are you doing with your money? What are you spending your money on?
Yep.
And from there, everything else is going to come, you know? I'm so grateful to know you, because you teach me so much about this. I'm so serious. I feel so blessed. And there's so many people that I talked to from the interviews that we did, and they're like, I watch her videos all the time. Go to YouTube, MissBeHelpful. All of her videos are there. All of her channels are there. You're constantly putting out videos all the time on new things. So visit and loyalnana.com for more too.
Thanks.